faithful loyal YouTube subscribers. Today it is, what is today? I know we in March. I know it's 2021. It's the 9th. 30 more days before my wonderful 51st birthday. What will I do for my 51st birthday? Continue to run from the coronavirus? Should I continue to run from the coronavirus? I throw an elaborate, fabulous birthday party. Yeah. I don't think I'll be having no birthday party. You know, one thing the past few weeks have taught me, and be grateful to get to your birthday and have a slice of cake and a cup of coffee and be grateful. And thank you. I made it. I'm 51. Whoopee. That was about it. There ain't been no birthday parties. Birthday party really hasn't even entered into my mind frame, more like when I was planning something for my 50th birthday. Well, we saw that when the coronavirus pandemic came along. At that time, we didn't know what the coronavirus was. What is they talking about? The corona? Who? What? No. And now we know exactly what it is. Oh, the coronavirus. So now it's like, oh, the fucking coronavirus. When this motherfucker gonna go away? A year, more than a year later, we're still in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. The last few days, I've been having these extensive arguments with a friend of mine over race relations in this country. We've been arguing back and forth. We've been arguing for weeks now. I wish I could have recorded some of these conversations. Ever since the insurgency at the Capitol, when the white folks and some blacks ran up in that Capitol in an attempt to overthrow the United States presidency and keep Donald Trump in office, which is it's almost hard to believe. In the past year, we witnessed history in so many ways, from the pandemic to the insurgency to the vaccines, so much that we've all allowed to y'all take good notes, because, you know, I should have been doing videos every day about all this stuff. But it's history, and in front of our own eyeballs. But anyway, me and a friend of mine have been arguing about race relations, because he feels black people, let me just say this, he feels black people are in the situation they're in because of their own doings. Now, I have a problem with that. I used to feel that way, but as I've gotten older and wiser and mature and have more information put into my hands, I never knew nothing about what took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to the past 15, 20 years. When I was a much younger person, I would say I'm 51, so I think I might have heard about Black Wall Street, the destruction of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I probably was in my late 20s when I first heard about it. Now, for somebody to live in the United States of America, and you ain't heard shit about this until you're now late 20s. There are other incidents that I didn't hear about until my mid to late 20s, early 30s. And every day now we're coming up with more information about how blacks in this country who had success, who had successful cities, successful lives, successful businesses, were just these things were destroyed and meddled with, and are flat out, like I said, destroyed by racist white Americans. Now, for us to sit here in the year 2021 and pretend that this has not had an impact on black Americans would be foolish. Think about all the black families who had family members killed in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Their parents killed, father killed. See, one of the things whites have that we are struggling with is generational wealth. Wealth passed from one generation to the next generation. But if you wipe out a generation and you leave orphan children in its place, and you destroy businesses, because this has happened repeatedly. And y'all, we could sit here and talk about Black Wall Street in Tulsa, but I'm sure there are thousands and thousands of situations and stories like that that we still haven't heard about. where racist white Americans went in and destroyed businesses, homes, cities, farms, destroyed this because it was simply because it was owned by someone black. They didn't have to have done anything wrong other than be black and successful. So for us to sit here and ignore that would be foolish. I grew up in Gary, Indiana. I know what Gary used to look like. Now, a lot of people try to blame Gary's demise on black people. But if you know anything about the history of Indiana and the city of Maryville and how it was created to siphon the resources from Gary after Mayor Hatcher was elected mayor, I was born in 1970, so I was born in 1970. Let's see something. I meant to look this up because Mayor Hatcher, and I think Mayor Hatcher in Gary, Indiana, took office at a time when in several cities, black mayors were taking control of these cities. Detroit, Cleveland, Gary, all predominantly middle class, black areas. White folks didn't like that. And so let's go. Mayor Hatcher, Gary, let's see if I can find something on him on the internet. Because I think Mayor Hatcher's deceased now. Richard G. Hatcher. I found it. He was born he was the first, at the time of his election, November 7th, 1967. I was born in 1970. He and Carl Stokes were the first African Americans to be elected mayors of a U.S. city. With more than 100,000 people. So that meant there had probably been other black mayors in much smaller cities, but this was the first time that Mayor Hatcher and Carl Stokes, I believe Carl Stokes was the mayor of Cleveland, Ohio, yes. So they both went into office in 1967. So when I lived in Gary, and Mayor Hatcher passed away in 1988. Well, I'll take it back. No, he was in office from 1968 to 1988. He was in there a long time. That might have also not been a good idea. But also the mayor of Detroit was in office for a long time, too. I forget his name. That went in the first black mayor of Detroit. I mean, he sat in there for a long time. While Detroit went downhill. But again, it wouldn't be wise. We have to understand. Gary was a beautiful city when I was growing up there. Born in 1970. In the 70s, it was pretty, but he was going through his demise because when Mayor Hatcher came, now think about this, 1967, a black mayor in Gary. Then white folks grabbed their mess, their U-Haul, and fled. Quick. And they didn't just leave their homes. They sold those homes for nothing, in many instances, and took their businesses, banks, dentist office, bakeries, whatever type of big dry cleaners, any type of business, they fled. So, of course, blacks did open businesses and replace this, but we didn't have the financial capital or the means to rebuild Gary after all the resources were drained. I remember downtown having Sears, Goldblatt's, Walgreens, grocery stores, all kinds of stores and stuff. Kessler's. Am I thinking Kessler's? I think Kessler's was downtown Gary back then. I think so. Walgreens. There was another store. I want to say. There were a lot of stores downtown Gary. And we could walk to downtown Gary. There were parks. There was the beach. It was Dune. There was just a lot of movie theaters. There were theaters downtown. I remember going to movie theaters downtown Gary. I remember they built the Civic Center, the Genesis Center, and they had concerts and venues. I mean, so I do believe Gary could have been successful if all the resources of the city had not been drained away in an attempt to harm black people. But while they were so focused on destroying black folks, what they didn't realize, they were also destroying all of Northwest Indiana at the same time. A lot of, so Indiana has its issues with race. Some people tend to think southern states are just racist states. Oh, no. Mm-mm. There are some parts of Indiana that we knew not to go to up there near Gary. I was never a teenager in Gary because we moved by the time by the time we moved in 1984, 83, 84, 85, I wasn't driving. I didn't get to drive as a teenager. I was living in Cincinnati, Ohio. However, in Gary, when I would be with my parents, there were certain places they'd say, don't come over here and stay out this area and don't do this and that. And because there were incidents where people that we knew of were harassed, arrested, or beaten, or by white officers, there was some really racist areas surrounding Gary that you knew not to go to, especially at nighttime, especially in the car, and stay away. I wasn't driving any damn way, so I was sitting up at home any damn way, so that was a mute point at that point. But if I had remained in Gary as a teenager, I probably would have known not certain places to go to. As a teenager, venture out, get car keys, and begin to venture around driving. But the reason that me and my friend were arguing about this, he feels blacks destroyed Gary. I'm thinking, well, how did they destroy it? When you take the banks, the money, the jobs, incomes, mortgages, when you strip a city of everything and then you redline the area for investments, it's almost like we're ignoring what took place in the United States of America. We cannot ignore this. We cannot ignore how our government played a part in this also to destroy black cities. They played a significant role. We cannot ignore this and put the blame on black people. Like I've said a million times, we didn't create Niggerville. White people did it. They did it. And then they washed their hands of it. We going, y'all. All right, bye. Y'all enjoy Niggerville. We're going to Maryville. They created Niggerville. Every Niggerville you see was created by white folks because they owned it first. And when they left, they said, okay, black folk, help me understand. Y'all tell me. Educate my black ass. What cities have black folks created? Other Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, that section in Tulsa was destroyed by racist white folks. What cities since that time I'm 51 years of age, so I'm educate my black ass. What towns and cities have we created from scratch? Anybody? Help me understand. I don't know. Educate my black ass. I think we tend to always get the leftovers after the white folks and just ran from it. Demolished it on their own. As they snatched their businesses out and ran someplace else, white flight. When I first moved to Atlanta was in bad shape. The neighborhoods were horrible. Boarded up houses everywhere. I was like, what in the hell happened here? I came from Gary. When we left Gary was on his way down. We got to Cincinnati. We went to Michigan first. Michigan was very nice then, back in the 80s. Then we came to Cincinnati. Cincinnati, for me, us was a very decent town. I learned how to drive, getting around the city, seeing folks, meeting people, having a good old time. There were some racist issues in Cincinnati. Oh, there were some racist issues in Cincinnati. You better believe that. But, we'll go back to Cincinnati for a minute. The biggest issue I had with Cincinnati, because I was in high school there, to go from a school system in Gary, Indiana, where you have black teachers, black educators, black principals, black superintendents, black everything, black janitors, everything, to get to Cincinnati, Ohio, where you got a large black student population, but all you got is white teachers, white principals, white superintendent, white janitors. And I'm walking around the school like, I had a couple of black teachers, a couple. I was at Aiken High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. Predominantly black kids, and there were some white kids there, but predominantly black and all these white folks. What is this? Now, I clashed with the administration there because I was just different. And I had questions I asked. I was always been a defiant person. Like, okay, wait a minute. That's not what I learned in Gary. I was taking math and all the science. And that, hold up. But what I quickly found out in Cincinnati, Ohio, then white teachers didn't give a fuck about educating them black kids. They didn't give a fuck. But Mr. Hampton, not today. We don't want to be bothered with you. Well, I want to ask a question. I've never had teachers tell a student we don't be bothered. We're not answering your questions today. In a math class or a science class or wherever. And so when you're sitting there trying to ask questions, and this is just my experience. Also, I think also in Gary, in Cincinnati, Ohio, there was just something about racism there that just didn't sit well with me. And I used to complain to my mother. That's how my mother ended up moving further south to Atlanta, because Atlanta was the promised land for black folks. I was encouraging my mother to move north, New York, let's go there. When we left Gary, I had cousins living in New York and out in Long Island. I said, Mom, we need to go in that direction. We need to be going northeast, not further south. This is not looking like a good idea to keep going down south. Go that direction. She just done that shit. Man, big mistake to me. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. Arguing with this fool. And I want to say, because I've been there. I've tried to blame black people for the things that happen in our communities, but I know better now. Because we don't control nothing in our communities. Nothing. We don't control the school system. Excuse me, we don't control the school systems, the water, food, the electricity. We don't control none of this stuff. And when they were coming in with cable TV and putting in all this stuff, and they always did the white neighborhoods first, because now they got these high, super fast. There was a cable. Google had something they were installing here in Atlanta. And they started on the north side of town. And people were complaining like, well, we want it on the south side of town too. But they were too busy digging in the ground and burying wires on the north side of town. Okay, niggas, we get to y'all later. We got to get these white folks happy first. And it always happens. I've lived in black neighborhoods. I've lived in white neighborhoods. Living in both opens your eyes. White neighborhoods, you can go to the Kroger up there. It's beautiful. It's not, oh my goodness, what is this? What kind of Kroger is this? I've never seen a Kroger like this. Is this Kroger? We must have been to the grocery store. They had this grocery store, and when I first moved in Atlanta, called Kroger. They had Harris Teeter. Oh my God, the Harris Teeters were beautiful. I love Harris Teeter. They're gone now. Kroger chased their ass out because Kroger started copying what Harris Teeter was doing and ran their ass to the battery in hand. And Kroger was way cheaper than Harris Teeter here in Atlanta. Harris Teeter came in with this high-end grocery store, high-end food, but they had all this prepared food. It was wonderful. And it just couldn't survive because Kroger, and back that time you had Kroger, you had Winn-Dixie. Winn-Dixie got brought out by Publix. That's what really killed Harris Teeter. When Publix brought their ass in Florida, Publix came in here and said, okay, y'all, we want this money too. We want it, and we're going to do it better than y'all. Publix had better customer service than Kroger, and we all know that Publix is what it is. So you're going to pay for it too. I prefer Kroger's. Price is a little bit lower. I can find my own stuff. I do like Publix stores. They're clean and neat. Tend to be a little bit smaller than Kroger's. I know I'm off track here. But the point of the matter is, on the north side of town or in white areas, those neighborhoods tend to get better retail stores, better grocery stores, better, just everything better. Infrastructure, electricity, they get all the new stuff first. Wi-Fi, all this stuff over there. Where I live at now, this area used to be black. I'm in Grant Park, used to be black, fairly white. And Comcast has this new high-speed internet thing I'm paying for. It is the best internet I've ever used. It's fast. I can upload a video to YouTube and it takes seconds. Where before it was taking 30, 40 minutes to upload a video. I'm paying for that service, and I need to be doing 2 and 3 videos a day. But life takes you down a journey, a path. You know what's going to happen. There's just so much stuff going on over here, and also there's some other formats that I want to begin working on. I'm just trying to formalize some ideas in my head and get some stuff together. However, it would be foolish for us to sit here and think, when you look around Black America and you look at our neighborhoods and you look at this shit that we see, that we hate, this ignorance, the violence, and all this stuff, and we have to understand we didn't get here alone. That our plight here in America has been controlled since the day we arrived here. Can we change the circumstances? Yes. Maybe. No. Who knows? Well, you ain't got no control. We don't control the educational system, the infrastructure. Yeah, we got black men, black what? Figureheads. Mayor Hatchett went into mayor, and people were excited. We got a black mayor. Then as the white folks said, okay, yeah, y'all got a black mayor. You do. But we got the money, and we about to strip it out this motherfucker. It's like buying a house and then go in there and strip all the wiring and the plumbing and electric. It's like, well, shit, we got the house now, but they took everything out on the way out the door. Now we got to rebuild this shit. And if you don't have the funds and the capital to rebuild the house, after they done took the plumbing, the electrical, the sheetrock, the roof, you just got a shell of a house. That's obviously what they did to Gary in Cleveland, in Detroit, and other places where blacks came in there. So you strip everything away, and these jobs, everything, you say, okay, niggas, have at it. And did they have at it? But see, we cannot ignore how white Americans have mistreated and meddled in black people's affairs for centuries since we got here, and put the blame on black folks. This is your fault. You did this. I'm guilty of having thought like that for years until I really began to realize, when I had to wake up and say, okay, what is going on here? But I was trying to buy a house back in the day and couldn't get along with mortgages and stuff until whites started moving. When I first tried to buy a house on Old 444, oh my God, we fought like hell. Brand new construction, because it was in the middle of Niggerville. It was horrible in Old 44. It's beautiful now in 44. It's like South Beach now, literally. It's about as expensive as South Beach in certain parts. But when I bought that house in the Old 44, then mortgage companies were like, yeah, we ain't really over here. They send a praise out of praise to keep on going. Child, we don't do this. Literally, it took me finding a black chick that to this day, I was, we had our issues, but I fell out with her. But she did get that mortgage closed twice. The first time it hit the table, we should have took that first deal. I told, we were all, we don't like this. And then a few weeks later, she got it back to the table, even worse deal. So me and we said, okay, we better take this one because they ain't getting no better. And it was all based upon the area where the house was sitting. And she kept trying to let us know, this is all you're going to get. You should have took the first one. I mean, you get a deal to the table. I learned back then doing real estate, once you get a deal to the table, you have a clear to close and you're at the table, sign them documents, go over the stuff, buy and sell it. We should have took that first deal. It was a better deal for me and for the buyer and the seller, me and him. But there were some issues. But we would have been fine, because by the time it swung back to the table, weeks later, it was no better. It was worse. I was like, should have took the first time. We were sitting there like, yeah, we should have took this the first time. But however, so I know what it's like to purchase a home in an area that's been redlined for decades. Banks turn their nose up and stuff. It's gotten better. Only reason why it's gotten better is because white folks have flooded into the city of Atlanta and took over areas like the Old 44, Eastlake, and Kirkwood, and Grant Park, where now we got high-speed internet service for $100 extra a month. That's what it costs. Who can afford that? I tell people who got this fast internet, I tell them the price, they say, I'm not paying that. I said, well, I understand. But yeah, I'm going to do I want to have conversations with black people and white people who discuss race relations. Because see, there's a divide here. Like I said in a video one or two ago about the blacks on one side, in this complex where I live at, blacks on one side, whites on the other. But I noticed something. Recently, I've seen a lot more whites moving out of here. They renovated these apartments, made them more upscale, and it cost more money. So some of the whites that were in here were holdovers from the older, their units were not renovated. They're actually a white couple that lived across from me, they just moved out a day or two ago, and they're gutting that unit right now. So they have the old rent. So as the units are renovated, and they're beautiful renovations, it's spectacular. The rent goes up. You know, you ain't getting all this new shit for nothing. You're gonna pay more money. So the white folks are like, oh shit, we go buy a house before we see that. I don't know where they're going, but as the rents go up, I'm noticing more of the white tenants who were here in the old stuff. So, well, white and black, once the units are renovated, they flee because the rents are higher. So I guess they say, shit, I ain't paying that type of money, so I don't know where else they're going to go. Because even with higher rent, this is still some of the most affordable rent for the square footage, I think, in the city. Other than the fact, in the main building, they don't have washers and dryers. They're doing the renovation for some reason. They're ripping out the washers and dryers. Don't ask me why would you take that immediately away? But I have washer and dryer in my townhouse here. So anyway, yeah, we were arguing back and forth, and it just went on and on and on and on and on. Because he's just so, you know, you gotta open your eyes and really look around you and say, who caused these issues? We have not been in control of anything since we arrived here in the United States. And it's been like this for decades. And they say, well, Hispanics can come here. Well, Hispanics may not be facing the type of hatred that we have faced for centuries. We've been facing this hate for centuries, decades. The Hispanics are new to the party. Donald Trump definitely didn't. What do you think the last 4 years about? The reason why Donald Trump got in office is because his hate towards Hispanics. They supposedly came here illegally, or hell they got here. And white folks' numbers starting to diminish in this country. That's how he won, based off hate. And if we're not careful, we'll see another Donald Trump. If we don't continue to vote and participate and stay involved, we'll see another one. I guarantee it. Because these racist white folks ain't went nowhere. They still here. They ain't went nowhere that fast. They still here. And if we sit back on our asses and do nothing, they get another Donald Trump in office. Because their hearts are still filled with hate and evil. Not all white people. So they claim, well, I just love black people. I'm not a racist. Mm-hmm. You've heard that, haven't you? I have too. But I gotta use the bathroom. I'll be back to discuss this some more. I gotta use the bathroom. Damn coffee going. Today is Tuesday, March 9th, the year 2021. I'm out of here. I'll speak to y'all later. Ooh.